Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you, and if you're returning, welcome back. I think today we should talk about communication. Communication between nurses and patients, communication between families and healthcare workers, communication between management and staff and management and vice versa. Let's talk about it. I'm just gonna say this: if you like what you see and you want to see more of my videos, then I would ask that you like, subscribe, and follow, and comment so that we can talk about it. So when we're thinking of communication, the way that we present ourselves when we're talking to people, sometimes we realize what our face is saying, what our voice is saying, our tone, the volume. We don't always pay attention to those things, and sometimes when people are speaking to us, they're not paying attention to those things. It's very important when you're speaking to someone that you are mindful of the tone of voice that you're using, of the language that you're using, and of the facial expressions that you're using when you're talking to someone face to face. We all are having stress, struggles, chaos in our day, and we are all dealing with things in our personal life that are beyond our control. And that can make anybody moody. That can make anybody cranky. And the thing is, when we answer our phone and we say, "What?" or we treat people like the question that they're asking is an inconvenience to our day, it is really breaking down the communication in your team that you need to be an effective team. When you want to be a cohesive team and work together, you have to communicate with one another respectfully, professionally. We can't allow our moods and the feelings that we're having about whatever's going on in our day, whatever's going on in our personal life, we can't allow those things to bleed onto our coworkers. Right? We can't allow our feelings to bleed all over our coworkers. It is stressful being a nurse. It is stressful working in healthcare. And on top of that, our lives can be very stressful too. And it is really hard sometimes to rein those emotions in. Listen, I'm a very emotional girl. Okay, one of my weaknesses, my kryptonite, is if you put a change in my day. If I have my whole day planned out, now a patient could change around the schedule a little bit. There's wiggle room in there. But if you add something into my day that I didn't plan into it, it's going to freak me out for about 2 minutes. Really, I'm going to have a reaction to that viscerally, and I can't seem to control that. But I have been really grateful to work with a team who gets that I'm going to freak out first, and then I'm going to figure out what to do next. I will move things around, get things done, and get this accomplished. You know, because as a nurse, things are not going to always go to plan. That's just a fact. You can plan your day out perfectly, and it is not going to go the way you plan it. It's just simply not. And as many years as I've been a nurse, you would think I have adjusted to this fact, but I have not. I have not adjusted to this fact, and my mood has not adjusted to this fact, but I have been working on it diligently. Another thing is, I had a patient say to one of my coworkers, "You know, I don't like her. She's not present when she's here. She's just checking boxes. She doesn't even talk to the patient." And I had to think about that. And I had to think about how my communication with my patient and their family was going. And I'll tell you, they weren't wrong. I was checking those boxes because it has been drilled into me that I need to be charting at the bedside. And I've always hated charting at the bedside for this reason alone. But we can chart at the bedside and still engage with our patients and still make them feel like they're present in the room. It probably is very unsettling if you're sitting looking at a screen, checking boxes, and not looking up to actually communicate with your patient. Another thing is the way that we speak to our coworkers. You know, our coworkers don't know what's going on in our day. They don't know what's going on in our personal lives, and they shouldn't get the brunt of it when they call to ask a question or problem solve or, you know, communicate whatever's going on with their patient. Our coworkers are not at fault for what's happening in our personal lives, and they're not always in control of what's happening in our professional situation. You know, our nurses, our coworkers are not always in control of what's happening with their patient that may be affecting you. And we're not in control of personal emergencies. Things happen. We're driving, we get into situations, we have health scares. Life does not go to plan. It doesn't. And if you let everything that's bothering you affect the way that you communicate with those around you, you're not going to build a good relationship with your coworkers. I know personally. I have been on the receiving end of attitude, and I have been on the giving end of attitude. And I really do feel bad if I give people attitude. But you can't take it back once you say it, right? You cannot take back words once you say them. You can apologize, but you can't undo the impact that those words are going to have, or the impact that it may have on your relationship to have a negative interaction with one of your coworkers. I've heard people say that that we are fake sometimes, but really that's part of customer service. Putting aside the things that are going on in my personal life right now and giving my attention to what's in front of me and giving my kindness and my compassion and my respect to the person who's on the receiving end of my communication. That is important. It's important in any situation, not just in healthcare, but when we're talking to our CNAs, when we're talking to our patients, when we're talking to each other. I have a very strong, passionate feeling about being respectful to each other, but I also have a bad habit of matching energy. And that is a negative on my part. We shouldn't be matching energy. We're adults, right? We can communicate with each other as adults. If we disagree, if we're not in a place where we can have communication, it is okay to say to your coworker, "Hey, can I call you back in about 5 minutes? I'm dealing with something right now, and I want to be able to give you my full attention. Let me just call you back in about 5 minutes." And really do call them back. Don't just say you're going to do it and not do it. Give yourself time to pull yourself together and be present for whatever you need to hear and for whatever needs to be said in that moment. Communication. It goes a long way. Respect goes a long way. How we talk to people, the tone of voice that we use, our facial expressions. I have a habit of frowning and not realizing that I look like I'm having the worst day ever. But I'm not. I'm not. I promise you, I just have resting nurse face. Just a joke. But I sometimes have had to be really aware of how I am portraying myself to those around me. I do not have a good poker face. I wear my emotions on my face sometimes. And I think that is challenging in healthcare, to put those emotions away and use them another time. That's my advice. Put your emotions away and use them another time. It is okay for you to feel your emotions and to feel the things that you feel, but there's a time and a place for that. And when we're trying to all get through a hectic day, that is not the time and the place to unload those feelings. But I do think you should have an outlet. I do. I think you should have an outlet for communicating those feelings and for getting through those feelings and for getting through the hard things that you've been through. It's very hard when you work in healthcare because also you're not allowed to really talk about what's going on, right? We can talk amongst ourselves because we have that access to the patient. That's our patient, and we can communicate about that patient and their family and the circumstances together. But we really can't go home and talk to our families about it. We really can't talk to our friends about it on the phone. We can't say what's going on in our lives. Because in healthcare, you have something called HIPAA that prevents you from talking about what Miss Johnson did to you today when you were at her house giving her care. Now, I just want to make it clear, I don't have a Miss Johnson in my patient load, nor do I have one anywhere currently. So just let's make that clear so nobody could confuse that. How are you communicating with your coworkers? Have you ever had a time when someone told you that you came across negatively, or did you ever have a time when you felt someone was disrespectful to you? Were you able to go to that person and talk it through? I think it's important that we talk about things as an adult and work through these miscommunications, and I think it's important when you have a miscommunication to address it. so that everybody understands that there's been a miscommunication. Because sometimes we will think about that in our mind and perseverate and ruminate in that miscommunication, and the person who we've had that miscommunication with is not even aware, it's not on their radar, because they totally didn't mean to point it at you. So it's important when we have those things that we are discussing things like an adult and having professional interactions with our coworkers and working through those things so that we can be the best team possible for our patients and give them the best care possible. I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments, how you have dealt with communication issues, times when you have had complications with communication, whether it was with a coworker, a patient, a family member. I'd love to hear about it. And if you like my content, like, subscribe, follow, and comment. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.